The Galactic Council chamber was the size of a small city. Tyler Ross had been sitting in the back row for 3 hours, trying not to fall asleep. At 24 years old, he was the youngest person in Earth's entire diplomatic team. Not because he was talented or special. Just because they needed warm bodies to fill seats, and he'd passed the basic exam. Tyler grew up in Phoenix group homes. Moved around 12 times before he turned 18. Never knew his parents. Never had a family that stuck around longer than a few months. When he aged out of the system, he had $200 and a high school diploma. The diplomatic program was just a job that came with food and a place to sleep. Now he sat in an alien chamber, surrounded by creatures that looked like they stepped out of nightmares and fever dreams. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. One species looked like floating jellyfish made of purple light. Tyler had stopped being impressed after the first week. The Dragon Queen stood up, and everyone went quiet. Queen Viraxia was massive. Easily 30 feet tall, covered in scales that shifted between silver and gold depending on how the light hit them. Her wings were folded against her back, each one probably bigger than Tyler's apartment back on Earth. When she moved, it sounded like wind chimes made of metal. "I am dying," she said. Her voice was strange. It sounded like it came from everywhere at once. "Not today. Not tomorrow. But soon. And when I die, my people die with me." Tyler leaned forward slightly. This was more interesting than the usual trade disputes and border arguments. "I am the last Draconian," Viraxia continued. "The last of a species that once ruled 100 star systems. We built cities that touched the clouds. We created technology your species still cannot comprehend. And now, all of that knowledge dies with me." The chamber stayed silent. Some of the alien delegates looked uncomfortable. Others just looked bored. "There is one way forward," Viraxia said. "An ancient ritual. The flame of succession. Anyone who survives it can become my heir. They will carry my memories, my knowledge, my power. They will become part Draconian, part their own species. A bridge between worlds." One of the jellyfish aliens spoke up, its voice translated through Tyler's earpiece. 17 volunteers have attempted this ritual. 17 have died. Why would anyone try again? Viraxia's eyes swept across the chamber. Because some things are worth dying for. Because legacy matters. Because somewhere in this galaxy, there must be one person brave enough or desperate enough to try. Tyler felt something twist in his stomach. He knew that look. He'd seen it in the mirror plenty of times. That look of someone who'd run out of options and was making one last play. The Dragon Queen's gaze moved across the rows of aliens. Past the important ones in the front. Past the mid-level bureaucrats in the middle. All the way to the back, where Earth's small delegation sat like an afterthought. Her golden eyes locked onto Tyler. He should have looked away. Should have stayed quiet. But something in her expression reminded him of Mrs. Chen, his caseworker from when he was 15. The one who actually gave a damn. The one who looked at him like he was a person instead of a file number. Tyler stood up. "Sit down." His supervisor grabbed his arm. "What the hell are you doing?" But Tyler was already walking. Down the aisle, past aliens who turned to stare at the human in the cheap suit. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. This was stupid. This was insane. People had died doing this. But Tyler had spent his whole life being told he didn't matter. That he was just another kid who'd age out and disappear. Another statistic. Another nobody. He stopped in front of the Dragon Queen's platform and looked up. She was even bigger up close. "I'll do it," he said. "You are human," Viraxia said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah. Humans are fragile. Short-lived. Your species has only been in space for 300 years. You are children playing at galactic politics." Tyler shrugged. "Probably true. But I'm here anyway." "What is your name?" "Tyler Ross." "And why do you volunteer, Tyler Ross? What do you hope to gain?" He thought about it for a second. Thought about the group homes and the foster families who sent him back. The teachers who didn't bother learning his name. The college applications that went nowhere because he couldn't afford the fees. The jobs that barely paid rent. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Maybe I'm just tired of being nobody. Maybe I want to matter, just once. Or maybe I'm just stupid enough to think I can do something nobody else can." Viraxia stared at him for a long moment. Then something changed in her expression. Her eyes softened slightly. "You have nothing," she said quietly. "Pretty much. You expect to die. Probably. And yet you volunteer anyway." Tyler met her gaze. Got nothing better to do. The Dragon Queen laughed. It was a strange sound, like thunder rolling across mountains. Perhaps Earth sends me exactly what I need. Not the strongest. Not the smartest. But someone too stubborn to know when to quit. She extended one massive claw. Come, Tyler Ross. Let us see if human desperation can survive dragon fire. The council chamber erupted. Aliens shouting in a dozen languages. Earth's delegation looked like they wanted to drag Tyler back. The supervisor was probably already writing his termination paperwork. But Tyler just stood there, looking up at the Dragon Queen who'd given him a chance nobody else ever had. When do we start? He asked. Now, Viraxia said. Before you have time to realize what you have done. A portal opened behind her, swirling with purple and gold energy. Tyler could feel heat coming from it. He took one last look at the council chamber. At all the important people from important species who'd never noticed him before. Then he turned and walked through the portal with the last Dragon Queen in the universe. Behind him, the chamber exploded into chaos. But Tyler didn't hear it. He was already gone, heading towards something that would either kill him or change him forever. And honestly, he was okay with either option. The portal dumped Tyler onto black sand that was still warm. He stumbled, caught himself, and looked up at a sky filled with 3 moons. The air smelled like copper and ash. Welcome to Drakthar, Viraxia said, her wings spreading wide as she landed beside him. My homeworld. Or what remains of it. Tyler turned in a slow circle. Massive towers rose in the distance, their peaks broken and crumbling. Empty streets stretched between buildings that must have been beautiful once. Now they were just bones. An entire civilization reduced to ruins and silence. What happened here? He asked. We did, Viraxia said quietly. We became so powerful, so perfect, that we forgot how to change. We stopped adapting. And when the plague came, we had no defenses left. We were too proud to ask for help. Too set in our ways to try something new. She looked at the dead city with ancient sadness in her eyes. Perfection is just another word for stagnation, Tyler Ross. Remember that. She led him through the empty streets. Their footsteps echoed off abandoned buildings. Tyler saw remnants of lives interrupted. A market square with stalls still standing. A fountain that had run dry centuries ago. Toys scattered in what might have been a park. Did you have kids? He asked. Before everyone died. I had 3 daughters, Viraxia said. The plague took them first. Children always burn brightest and fastest. Tyler didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. Sometimes silence was better than empty words. They reached a temple at the city's center. It was the only building that didn't look abandoned. Blue flames danced in a massive brazier at its heart, casting weird shadows on the walls. The eternal flame, Viraxia said. It has burned for 10,000 years. It will burn for 10,000 more. Tyler stared at the fire. It didn't move like normal fire. It seemed almost alive, reaching toward him like it knew he was there. So how does this work? He asked. I just walk into it? Yes. The fire will enter your body. It will rewrite your DNA, cell by cell. You will feel your bones breaking and reforming. Your skin will tear and regrow. The pain will be unlike anything you have experienced. How long does it usually take? Before people die, I mean. Viraxia was quiet for a moment. The longest anyone survived was 6 minutes. A warrior from the Kelton Empire. He was considered the strongest being in his generation. She looked at Tyler's thin frame, his cheap suit. Most die in under 2 minutes. Tyler walked closer to the flames. Heat washed over him like standing too close to an oven. And if I survive? Then you become my heir. Part human, part draconian. You will carry my memories, my ancestors' knowledge, our entire history. You will have powers your species has never known. She paused. But Tyler, you must understand. The fire does not just change your body. It changes everything. You will never be fully human again. He thought about that. Thought about his life back on Earth. The group homes. The loneliness. The constant feeling of being unwanted and unnecessary. Honestly? Tyler said. Being human hasn't been that great so far. Viraxia made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sigh. You may still refuse. There is no shame in choosing life. Tyler pulled off his jacket and tie. Kicked off his shoes. If he was going to do this, he'd do it properly. I've been scared my whole life. Scared of being alone, scared of not mattering, scared of ending up as just another forgotten kid who never did anything important. He looked at the flames. I'm tired of being scared. Then step forward, Tyler Ross. And let us see what humans are made of. Tyler walked into the fire. The pain hit him instantly. Every nerve in his body screamed at once. He felt his skin bubbling, melting, reforming. His bones cracked like dry wood. Something inside his chest twisted and compressed, then expanded violently. He tried to scream but his throat was changing, reshaping itself. Outside the flames, Viraxia watched. She'd seen this 17 times before. Watched 17 volunteers burn and die. Most started screaming within seconds. The screaming usually lasted about a minute before they collapsed. Tyler was screaming. But he wasn't collapsing. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Then 5. The human should have been dead. His body should have rejected the transformation by now. But somehow, impossibly, he was still standing. Still fighting. Viraxia began to see changes. Scales appearing on his arms, metallic and bronze-colored. His spine elongating, small protrusions forming that would become wings. His eyes starting to glow within a fire. But more than that, she felt something else happening. The bond was forming. Her memories were flowing into him. And his were flowing into her. She saw his life through his eyes. A baby left at a hospital with no note, no name, nothing. Growing up in facilities where staff changed constantly and nobody had time to care. Being moved from home to home, family to family, never belonging anywhere. The hunger on nights when dinner didn't stretch far enough. The cold in shelters with broken heating. The loneliness of sleeping in rooms full of other kids but having no friends. But she also saw his survival. The dark humor he developed to cope with everything. The books he read in libraries because they were free and warm. The determination to pass that diplomatic exam even though everyone said he'd fail. The stubborn refusal to give up even when giving up would have been easier. 10 hours passed. Then 20. Then a full day. Tyler remained in the flames, his body continuously breaking down and rebuilding. The pain never stopped, but he'd learned to exist alongside it. Pain was just information. It told him he was still alive. Still changing. Still becoming something new. Viraxia couldn't look away. She'd lived for 3,000 years and had never seen anything like this. The human wasn't stronger than the other volunteers. He wasn't tougher. By every measure, he should have been the weakest candidate yet. But he had something the others lacked. He'd spent 24 years learning how to endure the unendurable. How to keep going when everything hurt and nothing helped. The other volunteers had been warriors and champions, used to winning. They fought the pain because they'd never learned to accept it. Tyler had been living with pain his whole life. He knew how to breathe through it. How to find the tiny moments between waves of agony and rest in them. How to tell himself just one more second 1,000 times until hours had passed. 3 days after entering the flames, Tyler stumbled out. He collapsed on the temple floor, gasping. His entire body had changed. Bronze and gold scales covered his skin in intricate patterns. Small wings, still wet and folded, pressed against his back. When he opened his eyes, they glowed like molten metal. His hands ended in claws instead of fingernails. "I'm alive," he whispered, his voice deeper and rougher than before. Viraxia knelt beside him. "You are more than alive. You are transformed. You are my heir." Tyler looked at his changed hands, flexing clawed fingers. "I remember things. Things that aren't mine. Wars I never fought in. People I never met. Songs in languages that don't exist anymore." He looked up at her. "Are these your memories?" "Yes. And I carry yours now too." Viraxia's expression was gentle. "Oh, Tyler. What your people endure. What you endured." He tried to sit up and his new wings twitched awkwardly. "Did it work? Really work? You survived what killed 17 others. You burned for 3 days while others died in minutes. You did not just survive, Tyler Ross. You succeeded beyond anyone's expectations." Tyler started laughing. It hurt, everything still hurt, but he couldn't stop. He'd spent his whole life failing at everything that mattered. Failing to keep families. Failing to fit in. Failing to matter. And now he'd succeeded at the one thing nobody else could do. "I'm a dragon," he said, still laughing through tears. "A homeless kid from Phoenix is a dragon." Viraxia helped him to his feet. "You are a bridge between species. You are proof that strength is not about where you start, but about refusing to quit." She spread her wings. "Welcome to your new life, heir of Drakthar. Now let us teach you to fly. Tyler's wings didn't work right at first. They were too small, too weak, and he had no idea how to use them. He'd spent 2 weeks trying to fly and kept face-planting into the black sand outside the temple. You are thinking too much, Viraxia said, watching his latest failed attempt. Flying is instinct, not mathematics. Easy for you to say, Tyler muttered, spitting sand out of his mouth. His new dragon teeth felt weird against his tongue. You've had 3,000 years to practice. I've had 14 days. But slowly, things started clicking. The draconic memories helped. Somewhere in his head were centuries of knowledge about air currents and wing angles. The trick was accessing it without overthinking. By the 3rd week, he managed to glide short distances. By the 4th, he could actually gain altitude. The bond between them grew stronger every day. During meditation sessions in the old palace, Tyler would close his eyes and suddenly be seeing through Viraxia's memories. He experienced her childhood on a Drakthar that was alive and thriving. Saw her coronation as queen. Felt her grief when the plague came and her people started dying. But Viraxia experienced his memories too. And those disturbed her more than she expected. One evening, she found Tyler sitting on a balcony, looking at the dead city below. His wings were folded tight against his back. You are troubled, she said, settling beside him. Just thinking about Earth, Tyler said. Wondering if anyone noticed I'm gone. Probably not. My supervisor was probably happy to file the paperwork. He flexed his clawed hands. It's weird. I spent my whole life wanting to matter to someone. Now I matter to you, but everyone else has forgotten I exist. Viraxia was quiet for a moment. I saw your memory from when you were 7. The family that sent you back after 3 months. Tyler tensed. Which one? That happened a few times. The Johnsons. They said you were too difficult. Too broken to fix. Viraxia's voice carried an edge of anger. But I saw the truth in your memory. You were a child who cried at night because you missed a mother you never knew. You were not difficult. You were grieving. Yeah, well. Tyler shrugged. That's foster care. Some kids get lucky. Most of us just survive until we age out. Your species treats its young with cruelty, Viraxia said. My people would have considered such neglect barbaric. Your people also conquered 100-star systems and weren't exactly gentle about it, Tyler pointed out. I've got your memories too, remember? The Draconian Empire wasn't built on kindness. She couldn't argue with that. Fair point. But we never abandoned our children. No, you just got so caught up in being perfect that you forgot how to change. Different kind of failure. Tyler looked at her. Maybe that's why this worked. You needed someone who knows how to adapt because they had to. And I needed someone who actually wanted me around. Before Viraxia could respond, alarms blared through the palace. Ancient security systems that hadn't activated in centuries suddenly screamed to life. Intruders, Viraxia said, rising to her feet. Stay behind me. Not a chance, Tyler said, his wings spreading instinctively. They came through the palace doors in a coordinated strike. 3 aliens from different species, all heavily armed. Tyler recognized the insignias from his diplomatic training. These weren't random criminals. These were council-sponsored operatives. The human dies tonight, one of them said, raising a plasma weapon. The council has voted. The draconian line ends here. Viraxia roared, unleashing a blast of fire that sent 2 of them diving for cover. But the third got a shot off. The plasma bolt caught Tyler in the shoulder, spinning him around. Pain exploded through his body. But it wasn't the worst pain he'd felt. Not even close. 3 days burning in the eternal flame? That was pain. This was just annoying. Tyler grabbed a ceremonial statue from a nearby pedestal and hurled it. The assassin dodged, but Tyler had already moved. He didn't fight like a dragon, with formal stances and honor codes. He fought like a kid from a bad neighborhood who'd been in too many fights to count. He went low, sweeping the assassin's legs. When the alien fell, Tyler was already on him, claws at his throat. Bad idea. The second assassin tried to flank him. Tyler grabbed a heavy wall hanging and threw it like a net, tangling the attacker's weapons. Then he did something very undraconic. He kicked the assassin in what appeared to be a vulnerable spot, based on the screaming that followed. Viraxia had already subdued the third attacker. She stared at Tyler, who was standing over 2 groaning aliens, bleeding from his shoulder but grinning. That was not honorable combat, she said. Nope, Tyler agreed. That was street fighting. Rule 1, there are no rules. Rule 2, win however you can. Viraxia began to laugh. It started small but grew until her whole body shook with it. My people died because we became too proud. Too bound by tradition and honor. We would have rather lost with dignity than win without it. She looked at Tyler with something like wonder. You have no such limitations. Growing up poor teaches you that honor doesn't keep you warm at night, Tyler said, wincing as he touched his wounded shoulder. The scales were already starting to heal it, but it still hurt. Survival matters more than dignity. They secured the assassins and called for council peacekeepers. But the attack changed everything. Someone powerful wanted Tyler dead. And they try again. Over the next few weeks, Tyler trained harder. Not just in draconic powers, but in combining both sides of himself. He learned to use his fire with precision instead of raw power. Learned to use his smaller size and human flexibility as advantages. His wings grew stronger through exercises borrowed from human physical therapy routines. Viraxia watched him create hybrid fighting techniques that no pure draconian would have conceived. He was adapting her species' power to human practicality. You are not trying to become a dragon, she observed one day. Can't, Tyler said, practicing quick bursts of flame instead of sustained blasts. I'll never be a full dragon. But I don't need to be. I can be something new. Something that takes the best of both. Word started spreading through the galaxy's back channels. The human who survived the flames. The orphan who became an heir. Species that the council ignored began paying attention. If someone like Tyler could transform himself, what did that mean for them? Then the official summons arrived. The Galactic Council demanded Tyler's presence. Charges of illegal genetic modification. Destabilizing galactic order. Threatening the peace. Everyone knew what it really meant. They wanted him gone, and this was the legal way to do it. You do not have to go, Viraxia said, reading the summons. We could refuse. Tyler looked at his clawed hands, at the scales that now covered his body, at the wings folded against his back. A year ago, he'd been sleeping on his friend Jake's couch, barely scraping by. Now he had power. Purpose. A chance to prove something. I'm going, he said. Because if I don't, they'll just keep coming. And because every kid who's ever been told they don't matter deserves to see someone stand up and say watch me anyway. Viraxia nodded slowly. Then we go together. And we show the council what happens when they underestimate Earth's children. Tyler grinned, showing his pointed teeth. Time to crash a council meeting. What's the worst that could happen? They could execute you. Yeah, but they've been trying to kill me my whole life one way or another. At least this time I'll go out with style. They prepared to return to the council chamber. Tyler had entered it as a nobody in a borrowed suit. He'd return as something the galaxy had never seen before. And he was going to make sure they never forgot it. Before they left for the council, Viraxia took Tyler deeper into the palace than he'd ever been. Downstairs that seemed to go on forever, through corridors lit by crystals that glowed without heat. The air got colder the further they went. Where are we going? Tyler asked, his voice echoing off stone walls. To the truth, Viraxia said. If the council wants to judge you, you should know exactly what they are protecting. They reached a massive door covered in symbols Tyler recognized from his inherited memories. Ancient draconian warnings. Viraxia placed her claw on the door and it slowly opened, revealing a chamber the size of an aircraft hangar. Tyler's breath caught in his throat. The vault of ancients stretched before them, filled with technology that made human science look like kindergarten crafts. Floating platforms held devices that hummed with barely contained energy. Crystalline computers the size of buildings pulsed with light. Genetic sequences that could rewrite DNA in seconds. Weapons that could crack planets. Ships that could cross galaxies in days instead of years. This is what remains of my people's legacy, Viraxia said quietly. 10,000 years of advancement. And all of it sleeping, useless, because there was no one left who understood how to adapt it. Tyler walked between the displays, his enhanced mind processing what he saw. The draconic memories helped him understand the basic functions, but his human perspective saw something the ancient draconians hadn't. You built all this for raw power, he said, examining an energy matrix the size of a truck. Maximum output, maximum range, maximum everything. But you never thought about efficiency. Efficiency was not a concern. We had unlimited resources. Yeah, until you didn't. Tyler knelt beside the matrix, his clawed fingers tracing power conduits. Humans have been making do with less for our entire history. We're good at it because we have to be. His mind raced with possibilities. What if we redesigned this? Not for maximum power, but for maximum adaptability. Over the next week, Tyler barely slept. He worked in the vault, combining draconian technology with human engineering principles. The genetic sequencer that took hours? He modified it using human parallel processing concepts, cutting the time to minutes. The energy weapons that drained entire power cores? He redesigned them with human battery technology, making them sustainable. Viraxia watched in amazement as the orphan boy basically rewrote 10,000 years of draconian engineering. Not by replacing it, but by thinking about it differently. "How are you doing this?" she asked, watching him jerry-rig a communications array that hadn't worked in centuries. "Foster care teaches you to fix things with whatever you've got," Tyler said, using a piece of wire from one device to repair another. "You learn to improvise. Make things work that shouldn't work. The Draconians built everything to be perfect. Humans build things to be fixable." His wings had grown stronger too. He'd started using human workout principles on them. Progressive overload. Rest and recovery. Targeted exercises. Pure Draconians just relied on natural growth. Tyler treated his wings like muscles, and they responded by developing faster than Viraxia thought possible. His fire control improved through practice borrowed from human martial arts. Instead of just blasting away, he learned precision. A focused stream instead of a wide spray. Short bursts instead of sustained flames. It wasn't as impressive looking, but it was way more practical. One afternoon, while Tyler was recalibrating a scanner array, Viraxia said, "You are not trying to become draconian." "Can't," Tyler said without looking up. "I'll never be a full dragon. My wings are smaller, my fire is weaker, I'm not as strong. But that's okay. I don't need to be what you were. I can be what comes next." "And what is that?" Tyler finally looked at her, his glowing eyes meeting hers. "Something that learns from the past instead of just copying it. Your people were amazing, Viraxia. But they got stuck. They reached the top and forgot that evolution doesn't stop. Ever." He gestured at the vault. "All this technology, all this power, and they couldn't adapt to a single plague. You know why?" "Tell me." "Because they'd never had to struggle. Never had to improvise. Never had to make do with less than perfect." Tyler smiled sadly. "Humans are good at surviving because we've never had the luxury of being perfect. We're always one disaster away from extinction. It makes us creative." Word started spreading through the galaxy. The human who was reactivating draconian technology. The nobody who was uncovering secrets the council thought safely buried. Representatives from younger species, the ones dismissed and ignored by the council's elder races, started sending quiet messages of support. Tyler received a transmission from a Bel-10 refugee colony. Then from a mining operation run by creche workers. Then from a dozen other sources. All basically saying the same thing. If an orphan human could become a dragon, what did that mean for the rest of them? The council noticed. And they didn't like it. The formal charges arrived within days. Illegal genetic modification. Unauthorized access to restricted technology. Destabilizing galactic order. Inciting unrest among lower-tier species. The trial date was set for 2 weeks away. "They are afraid," Viraxia said, reading the documents. "Not of you specifically. Of what you represent." "And what's that?" "Change. The possibility that their comfortable hierarchy might not be as permanent as they believe." She looked at him seriously. "Tyler, they will not let you leave that trial alive. This is an execution dressed as justice." Tyler stood on the palace balcony, looking out at the dead city of Drakthar. His wings caught the wind, strong enough now to lift him if he wanted. "My whole life, people with power have been trying to put me in my place. Teachers who didn't care. Case workers who saw me as paperwork. Foster parents who returned me like defective merchandise. The council's just a bigger version of the same thing. And I'm done being told I don't matter." Tyler turned to face her, scales gleaming in the triple moonlight. "We go to the council. We stand trial. And we show them exactly what happens when they underestimate someone who's got nothing to lose." "You have everything to lose now," Viraxia said gently. "You have power. Purpose. A home." "That's why I have to do this," Tyler said. "A year ago, I had nothing. Now I have everything. Which means I know exactly how it feels to be on the bottom. All those species the council ignores? The refugees, the conquered, the dismissed? They're where I used to be. If I back down now, I'm telling them they should stay there." Viraxia spread her massive wings. Then we prepare. If the council wants a trial, we give them one they will never forget. They spent the next 2 weeks gathering evidence. Tyler compiled data on every modification he'd made, every piece of technology he'd reactivated, every innovation that combined human and draconian knowledge. He practiced his testimony until he could explain complex concepts in simple terms. But more than that, he practiced just being himself. Not trying to be more impressive, more diplomatic, more anything. Just Tyler Ross, the foster kid from Phoenix who'd somehow become a dragon. The night before they left, Tyler stood in the vault one last time. He looked at all the technology he'd brought back to life. All the possibilities he'd unlocked. "You ready for this?" Viraxia asked from the doorway. Tyler grinned, showing pointed teeth. "Not even a little bit. But I've never been ready for anything in my life. Hasn't stopped me yet." They boarded a ship and set course for the council homeworld. Tyler had walked into that chamber once as a nobody. He'd return as something unprecedented. And this time, they'd have to listen. The council chamber was packed. Tyler had never seen it this full before. Every species in the galaxy seemed to have sent representatives. The gallery seats were standing room only, filled with observers who'd traveled across star systems to witness this trial. Tyler walked down the center aisle, and the whispers started immediately. He wasn't wearing a suit this time. What was the point? His body was covered in bronze and gold scales. His wings were folded against his back, too large to hide. His eyes glowed within a fire. There was no pretending to be fully human anymore. Viraxia walked beside him, her massive form drawing nervous glances from the council members. They took their positions in the center of the chamber, standing in a circle of light while hundreds of alien eyes watched. The council chairman, a being that looked like a tree made of crystal, spoke first. "Tyler Ross of Earth. You stand accused of violating genetic integrity laws. Of destabilizing established galactic order. Of unauthorized modification of restricted technology. How do you plead?" Tyler looked up at the council seats, at all the powerful species looking down at him. "I plead that this entire trial is a joke." Shocked silence filled the chamber. "You didn't talk to the council like that. You dare show contempt?" another council member demanded. "I dare tell the truth," Tyler shot back. "Let's be honest about what this really is. You're not mad about genetic modification. You're terrified because a human survived something that killed your best warriors. You're scared because someone you've spent 3 centuries dismissing just proved you wrong. You violated ancient protocols," the chairman said coldly. "The draconian succession was meant for qualified candidates from established species." "Qualified?" Tyler laughed, and the sound echoed strangely through the chamber. 17 qualified candidates died. I lived. Seems like I was the only one actually qualified. Viraxia stepped forward. The trial was open to any who dared attempt it. You cannot change the rules because you dislike the outcome. The outcome is an abomination, a council member from the Kelton Empire stated. Half-breeds weaken the genetic integrity of elder species. This must be corrected before it spreads. Corrected, Tyler repeated. Nice word for murder. He spread his wings, the metallic scales catching the light. But let's talk about what really bothers you. It's not about genetics. It's about power. Your power. The hierarchy you've built where you get to decide who matters and who doesn't. The order exists for a reason, the chairman said. Younger species lack the wisdom for self-governance. They require guidance from their betters. Their betters, Tyler said quietly. Then louder, you mean like the Draconians? One of the greatest civilizations in galactic history? Who died because they became so perfect, so powerful, that they forgot how to adapt. He turned slowly, addressing the entire chamber. I've got Viraxia's memories now. I remember the Draconian Empire. And you know what I learned? They weren't killed by disease. They were killed by arrogance. By the belief that they'd reached the peak and didn't need to change anymore. Careful, human, a council member warned. Or what? You'll kill me? You're already planning to. Tyler walked toward the council seats. But before you do, let me show you something. He raised his hand, and the chamber systems responded. Ancient draconian technology woven into the council building itself, dormant for millennia, suddenly activated. Displays lit up. Holographic projections filled the air. Archives that had been sealed opened at his command. The council members looked panicked. How are you doing this? Because I'm not just Viraxia's heir, Tyler said calmly. I carry the entire draconian legacy. Every piece of technology, every password, every access code. It's all in my head now. He looked around the chamber. And I've spent the last 2 months figuring out how to make it better. Holographic displays showed his modifications. Draconian energy systems redesigned for efficiency. Genetic sequences improved with human medical knowledge. Weapon systems made more precise. Communications arrays that combined both species' understanding of physics. This is what you're so afraid of, Tyler said. Not that I violated your laws. But that I proved your laws are outdated. You want to keep young species in their place because you're terrified of what happens when they catch up. A council member stood. This proves our point. You have access to technology that could destroy civilizations. You must be contained. Must I? Tyler's eyes flared brighter. Here's the thing about humans. We're really good at being underestimated. You think I came here unprepared? He gestured, and new displays appeared. I've spent the last month in contact with 4 to 7 different species. The ones you ignore. The refugees. The conquered territories. The mining colonies and frontier outposts. All the people who keep your civilization running while you pretend they don't exist. The displays showed messages of support. Entire populations watching this trial. Waiting to see if change was possible. You can kill me, Tyler said. But you can't kill what I represent. Hope for people who've been told they don't matter. Proof that the bottom of your hierarchy isn't permanent. Viraxia stepped beside him. The council faces a choice. Accept that change is inevitable, or cling to power until it tears you apart. My people made the wrong choice. We refused to adapt, and it killed us. What are you proposing? The chairman asked carefully. A new system, Viraxia said. The Draconian throne will not be limited to a single heir. The Trial of Flames will remain open to any species, any individual, who has the courage to attempt it. Those who survive will carry our knowledge forward, but mixed with their own species' perspectives. This is unacceptable, multiple council members protested. You would create an army of hybrid warriors. I would create a future, Viraxia countered. One where power is earned through trial, not inherited through birth. Where any species can access ancient knowledge if they prove worthy. Tyler crossed his arms. You can vote against it. But I've already uploaded the trial protocols to 40 different systems across the galaxy. The information is out there now. You can't put it back in the box. The council erupted into chaos. Some members demanded Tyler's immediate execution. Others argued for compromise. The younger species representatives stood in support, while the elder races shouted them down. Finally, the chairman called for order. This requires deliberation. The council will vote in 3 days. No, Tyler said firmly. You vote now. Because if you don't, I start activating every piece of draconian technology in this building. Let's see how comfortable you are when someone else has the power for once. It was a bluff. Mostly. But the council didn't know that. The vote was close. Terrifyingly close. But enough council members saw the writing on the wall. Change was coming whether they liked it or not. Better to control it than be swept away by it. The motion passed by 3 votes. The Draconian throne would remain open. The Trial of Flames would accept any candidate. The legacy would be shared, not hoarded. Tyler and Viraxia left the council chamber in silence. Outside, crowds had gathered. Representatives from dozens of species, mostly the younger and dismissed ones, waited. A young woman pushed through the crowd. She looked human, but Tyler's enhanced senses picked up subtle differences. Mars colony, his mind supplied. Second generation. Is it true? She asked. Can anyone really try? Tyler looked at her, seeing himself from a year ago. Young, desperate, looking for a chance to matter. Yeah. It's true. It'll hurt worse than anything you can imagine. You'll probably die. But if you survive, you'll never be helpless again. When can I start? Tyler glanced at Viraxia, who nodded slowly. Come to Drakthar in a week. Bring your courage. Leave your fear behind. 3 months later, Tyler stood on a palace balcony watching the third candidate enter the flames. The first had died in 2 minutes. The second, a Kresh miner, had survived and was currently learning to use her new wings. Now a human from the Mars colony stood in the fire, screaming but not falling. You have given them hope, Viraxia said, standing beside him. The forgotten, the dismissed, the ones told they would never be more than they were born to be. Tyler watched the flames, remembering his own trial. Someone gave me a chance when nobody else would. Figured I should pay it forward. Below, the candidate stumbled but caught herself. Kept standing. Kept fighting. She will survive, Viraxia observed. Yeah, Tyler said, spreading his wings. She's got that look. Like she's already been through worse and refused to quit. He smiled. That's the secret, you know. We don't survive because we're special. We survive because we're too stubborn to know when to give up. The woman in the flames screamed again, but it was a scream of determination, not defeat. Tyler had been nobody. A foster kid from Phoenix with no future. Now he was teaching others that nobody had to stay nobody forever. The dragons were rising again. And this time, they came from everywhere.